Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Empower Series podcast. My name is Clifton Johnson. I want to say hello to our guests and our viewers in the United States and around the world. You're in the right place. We're going to talk about something that's very impactful and dear to my heart. So get your pens and paper ready. We are going to talk about a topic that is affecting a lot of families. I'm going to make sure I don't miss a thought that I have in sharing the opening to this. Many families are dealing with an environment where there needs to be greater understanding and greater support for neurodivergent learners. And in this world where we increasingly embrace diversity in some cases, right? It's very important to realize that we are all wired differently. Our brains are wired differently. And we need to create an educational system that really celebrates that and can allow people to really reach their full potential. And that is why I am so excited. I'm so excited today to bring to you our guest, Mirtha Brown. Mirtha is the founder and the director of Discovery Learning Academy. It's a private early childhood elementary school right here in Dallas, specifically in Duncanville. And Discovery Learning Academy is known for its unique approach to early education. It's inspired by the Reggio
Emilia.
Yeah, original. Thank you for that one, right? Philosophy, which we'll learn more about. But I want to tell you right now, and I want to get out the way and bring on Mirtha. Mirtha, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and your life to pour into the Empower Series. So welcome to the Empower Series podcast.
Well, thank you for having me here, Clifton. I consider it to be an honor and a blessing just to kind of talk about what neurodivergence is and what our community can offer. I am the founder of Discovery Learning Academy. It's an early childhood elementary program that we did create back in 2009. In fact, it was with the mindset of my son, because when he was in school, there was a lot of conflict with his behavior. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was provide him with an educational system that allowed him to just thrive and grow without feeling like his behavior or his style of learning was a factor in whether or not he could succeed.
Well, I'll tell you this, your experience as a parent you're not alone in that. Right. But I like the fact that you experienced something, and not only did you deal with this for your son, but you've created something that's really going to be a blessing for more than just you.
Yes.
For the most part, right? It's the universe. And so I'm going to have a deep conversation about this because I have a daughter who's 38 right now. And when I look back at, with parents, we don't know what we're really doing. With the first one out, at least, right? Sometimes the second and the third too. But on the first one, it's just an experiment. And in talking to her now, I do realize, and she has shared it with me, that we didn't really recognize some of the challenges that she was faced with or appreciate the difference in how she processed things.
Yes.
And so I want to have a conversation with you. And I was telling you earlier that what I want to do in this podcast is really give you a platform to share with us your insight, your wisdoms, and some tools to help other families out there, other individuals like myself, or may not have a divergent learner in their circle, but really give them a better understanding, a better appreciation, and create a more supportive environment for people who are still brilliant, but they're just different,
yes.
Right? They process things differently. So let's talk a little bit. I know you talked about your son and having the experiences here, but what really prompted you to go all out and create your learning academy?
Well, I think first we need to understand what neurodivergence is. And neurodivergence is a neurological disorder that is present at birth. And basically, the brain develops differently. So we all know about our pathways and neural synapses, and whether it's nature, environment, chemical, food, there's no way of really understanding. But the brain starts creating different paths. And so what should be a straight path from A to B now becomes a curve or an S or a zigzag. You're still getting to B, but you're just not getting it in the same way. So we classify the brain in two ways. We say you're either neurotypical or you're neurodivergent. Mm-hmm. And if you're neurodivergent, then you fall under the umbrella of children that suffer from autism, ADHD, dyslexia, anxiety, high performance. So there's a large umbrella that has neurodivergence. So with my children, my daughter, she was the model child. Mm-hmm. If I asked her to do something, she did it. There was no distraction. She could sit down, she could listen, she could follow directions. She picked up reading at a very early age. Mathematically, she was able to do what she needed to do. Had no issues. She just breezed through her first 5 years of education. My son, on the other hand, was a little different. You know, he was a little more active. He's a little bit more busybody. His thought processes were a little bit different. There were things that he did that kind of frustrated me a little bit. He wasn't potty trained as quickly as my daughter was. He was a little bit more vocal. He kind of stuck in routines about things. And as a parent, the first thing you say is, how come you can't behave, or how come you can't act like so-and-so?
Right.
And it wasn't that he wasn't learning, because he was very gifted. He was really good at puzzles, very mathematically inclined. Reading took a little bit longer for him, but he understood what he was doing. When he did start elementary school, or actually pre-K3, pre-K4, that's when the challenges started happening. It was, he's getting disruptive. He's not following directions. He's bothering the other children. You need to come pick him up. And I'm like, he's just 4. Why are we having those kind of conversations at the age of 4, even at the age of 5? He's such a sweet kid, but, you know, you hear that a lot. He's such a sweet kid. However, you know, he's doing this, but, you know. And so as a parent, all you hear is the but. And the however. And you're trying to, as parents, one of the first rules that we should understand is never compare your child to someone else.
Right. But we don't.
But we don't. We don't follow that rule. We're still comparing. Well, your sister did this. How come you're not doing it? Well, the other kids in the classroom, how come you're not doing it? And as an educator myself, I was in the school system for a good 10 years before I decided to quit my profession and open up Discovery Learning Academy. I was like, listen, you don't need to struggle. Let's see what's going on. I'm not a diagnostician, so I'm not here to say these are the elements or the characteristics you need to look for to diagnose your child. But what I can say is, once you start observing different traits and observations, then as a parent, you really do need to look into, okay, what's going on, and have those conversations with your pediatrician as far as maybe there's something that you need to look deeper into.
So you said neurotypical? Is that what?
Yes.
And then neurodivergent. Let me just talk a little bit about some statistics that I've run across. You mentioned that the type of learning challenges that we commonly associate with neurodivergency is autism or ADHD or even dyslexia.
Yes.
And so 1 out of 36 children have been identified with some form of autism.
Yes.
And then also 9.4% of children ages 3 through 17 years of age have been diagnosed with some type of ADHD.
Yes.
Also with dyslexia, it's estimated that 20% of the population has some type of dyslexia. And so it's not uncommon, you know. It's not. It's more. And then some of the other things, when you talk about the educational experience, education or neurodivergent students are increasing in the educational system. In 2004, according to a 2004 study, the increase has been over 267%. And what's concerning about that is there's an estimate of 65% of students who require support, but they're not receiving it.
True.
And that's why it's so admirable and impactful for the community and the universe as well, that you've taken action on your individual experience.
Yes. And what's surprising is that even though ADHD or autism affects Black and Brown communities, we are less likely to get diagnosed or to receive services. Because once we hear that label, we automatically assume there's something wrong with my child. Yeah. Now, my child is not as academically gifted. My child is not going to perform or be successful later in life. And I don't want to put that label on my son or on my daughter. So then we deny services thinking that we're just going to do it the good old-fashioned way.
We'll work through it. Right?
We'll work through it.
Yeah.
We're just going to beat it to the ground until they're no longer neurodivergent. which is absolutely ridiculous because the study shows neurodivergency occurs at birth. It is not something that is developed later in life. Now, symptoms begin to appear within first 18 months of life. By the time they're 3 years old, then you clearly see a lot of the symptoms, but it's already present by the time they're 18 months. Even at the age of, at the point of birth, it's present, but we just don't see its development, or we don't see the symptoms until later. Most kids, by the time they're 3, have already gone through 80% of brain development. Yeah. By the time they're 5, 90% of the brain has been formed for adulthood.
Well, the study also shows that early, I wouldn't say treatment, but early diagnosis and creating an environment where children can still thrive or learn differently. If you catch that early, it has a short-term effect of improving their language skills and social skills, but also it provides a long-term effect of their ability to reach their full potential longer. If you catch this early, like what you're saying, right?
Because a lot of our children get undiagnosed until they're 3rd grade, 4th grade. By that point, it's too late. If we can catch it by the time they're 3 years old and we're starting to put structure and programs in place for them, creating an environment that celebrates their differences instead of trying to renavigate or rewire their learning pathways, then we can better assist them in the long run. Okay. So for example, you might have a child who is, and when I say ADHD doesn't also affect those who are hyper, but you also have those children who just lack focus, which was ADD back in the day. So they just lack focus, like they just are tuned out. You have to like re-energize them or re-engage them in order to catch information. So you create opportunities that allows that. So it's a constant movement. The brain needs a constant reset, basically. So if you're expecting someone to sit in school, traditional model, you're at your table, the teacher slides you your worksheet, she makes you sit there for 45 minutes to an hour. Neurodivergent students, learners, they're going to struggle in that environment. The brain needs to reset every 15 minutes. So you give them an activity, move it into something else. They reset, totally change the topic. You bring them back, they do another 15 minutes, and then you reset. While the brain is constantly resetting, it's basically taking the information that it learned, storing it, come back to it, pull it out again, build on it, store it. You pull it out again, build on it, store it. So while you're building those, you're stacking your information. And so in the long run, once you've done an hour of up and down, 15-minute breaks, movement here and there, you've actually accumulated a lot of that information that you would have needed because of the movement versus you just sitting there with a piece of paper and say, hey, just sit here for an hour. And then that's when the fidgeting, the ticking, the stemming, all of these self-regulatory behavior starts popping up because they're not used to it. That's not their mode of processing information.
I like what you just said. It's really customizing a learning plan that is focusing on the child's strengths and their personality style. And so tell me about the Reggio Emilia process or the theory that you guys use at your school.
Well, before I knew what neurodivergence was, I had researched and spent a lot of time understanding Reggio Emilia. Prior to Reggio Emilia, most of early childhood education was Montessori. And Montessori is great, but Montessori doesn't link themes together.
Let's define Montessori too, because I want to follow you as well.
Well,
probably some other people want to follow you there too.
Montessori is just another style of learning that focuses on the child, but it creates a quiet environment. It's very project-based, but it's also very, it's not teacher-led, but it's very subject-specific. It's very isolated.
Okay.
And so Reggio Emilia is not isolation. Reggio Emilia says we're going to take everything around us and we're going to bring it into the classroom and we're going to allow the child to learn from there. So Reggio Emilia's focuses is student self-directed. It's, if you ever heard the concept, it's the guide on the side, not the stage, not the sage on the stage.
No, but I like that.
Okay.
So we'll
Yes.
use that.
But that's kind of the philosophy of Reggio
Okay.
Emilia. So we allow the child to dictate how he or she is going to learn.
Okay.
I am just going to be the person on the side that helps them along the process. And if I see them kind of detouring or making judgments that are outside of the ordinary, then I can provide guidance. But I'm not here to say, do this, do that.
I like that process because there's another. Have you ever heard of the world is your library?
Yes.
Okay,
That's basically how it goes. So
Okay.
Reggio Emilia has 7 principles. And so the first principle is the child is the learner.
okay.
That's the first principle. The child is a learner, and the classroom is just another part of instruction. And so what we do is we take that same philosophy and then we tied it into the program. And so if the kids were interested in learning about insects, then the language became about insects, phonics became about insects, the math was about insects, the science was about insects, everything correlated. The literature was about insects. So not only was he just learning about what an insect is, now we're tying all of these subject matter into this one idea, and he or she gets to ask questions, gets to expound on what they already understand. Then provides experiments on how to build or understand what those questions are, find answers for those questions, and then summarizes, oh, this is what I learned. And then they can express what they're learning, what they've learned in so many ways. You know, we assess knowledge through a test. Check ABCD.
Right.
Whereas Reggio Emilia says knowledge can be expressed in so many different ways, whether it's through art, music, writing, literature, beating a drum, writing a sonnet, creating, a symphony. There's just so many things that can be done to express your understanding. It doesn't have to be limited to paper and worksheet.
And one of the things I see this brilliance in my daughter, the ability to have empathy in communicating and relating with other people.
Yes.
Right.
That's a skill.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. So here's the thing that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about those parents who have a child and they're beginning to notice a difference. So a lot of times when you have a baby, you take them to the doctor and they have this chart and they map the level of progress based on the age.
Milestones in development.
You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you're noticing either if your child is advancing beyond the average, you're like, oh, good, that's my boy.
That's my
my
boy.
girl, right?
You're proud. You've got this, puffed up air about you.
Yeah. And then if for any reason there's like a little bit of a delay, it's like, okay, what can we do? Right? What can we do? How can we fix this? And so from that standpoint, I'm imagining that there are probably some people watching who either know of a family member or themselves that have gone through this, or, they're experiencing that feeling of, oh, wow, okay, my child is special.
Yeah.
And not in a sense that, oh, they're very special. It's like, oh, what's going to be the challenges? And then the lack of resources, the lack of education. So I know one of the things that you talked about doing with your nonprofit is really educating teachers.
Yes.
But where do parents go when they're beginning to notice that their child is a little bit different and they don't know how to respond to that? Because part of the education is not even for the parents. So help us identify, for those who are watching, where do they get resources? Where do they get help? Education, or whatever you want to call it.
I think the great thing about our era now is that there are resources available. But the first thing you want to go to is go to your professional. Mm-hmm. Talk to your pediatrician, your child's pediatrician. Okay. Let them know what you're observing. And there are assessments and diagnostician tools that are out there that the pediatrician will go through to determine whether or not the child is ADHD or autism. Normally with autism, they can start diagnosis, I want to say between the ages of 18 months to the age of 3. Most children are diagnosed for ADHD until the age of 5. Because it's like, how do you know where the attention is? It just active energy, or is there really a lack of focus or a lack of understanding when it comes to their learning? Autism affects children differently than it does ADHD. Mm-hmm. So ADHD is primarily the hyperactivity. Yes, but sometimes you're just so hyperactive that you can't process information properly. It just takes you a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And then you have some autistics children where they're not processing the information and they're not making the connections, but they're able to pick up other tools a lot faster than they would be general academics. I think the challenge is we put so much more emphasis on academic. Mm-hmm. Think of it like a pyramid. The first thing on the bottom of the pyramid is what we need to spend the most time on, which is sensory input. Once you get to sensory input, then it goes into brain mapping, then we're going into social cues, then we're going into how we process that information, and then finally we get to academics.
So let's talk about sensory input.
Yes.
So give me some examples.
Okay. As a child, a baby, infant, you're looking at your baby, you're smiling. That's the first sensory input your child is. Do they smile back? That's the first. The noise they hear, what they're smelling. You know, when you're angry, you're looking at facial cues.
Facial expression, right?
Right?
Yeah.
You know, how do I know my mom's happy with me? She smiles, her eyes light up, her brows, you know, they're extended. I know there's happiness, there's joy there. How do I know when she's upset with me? There's a furrow, the smile is down. You know, there's a darkness in her expression. So as a child, you're getting those cues. As a baby, as an infant, you're getting those cues, and the brain is saying, "Oh, when I giggled, she smiled. Yeah. So that means I'll giggle some more. That's a social cues. Oh, when I cried, she got angry with me, or when I knocked over the vase, she got angry. Oh, I don't like that feeling. So I'm picking up those social cues. Children who are autistic don't make those connections.
And you see more of a plain expression.
Yes,
right? Okay.
Because they're not making that. Those cues aren't working for them in the same way.
Okay. And then there's probably also a quietness, right? Okay, so that's the first level.
Yes.
And then the second level you mentioned.
And then the second level goes into social cues. And I think I might have missed some orders, but basically your sensory input is the first thing. And then whatever you're getting sensory then leads into your mapping. It's basically the brain understanding what those cues mean. And then you go into processing information. Okay. All of that happens well before you get to the academics. Mm-hmm. The academic is just a little point
at the tip,
at the top. Yeah, the tip of the pyramid. But as parents, as educators, we invert it. Mm-hmm. We spend so much time working with, well, my child is not writing. My child is not doing his ABCs. Can he read? Yeah. He doesn't recognize his letters. He's not understanding his numbers. But that is just the bare minimum. Let's revert the pyramid or the triangle and start at the bottom. Are they understanding what those cues are? Because that's what's leading to information. If they can recognize those cues, and it's not just social cues, but being able to tell the difference, comparing, sorting, all of those things take place well before you get into the academics. And if I can't do anything on the bottom, then my academic is always going to suffer.
Thank you for watching our content. I hope our content is inspiring you and empowering you to make a difference in your life and take that next step to achieve your goal. Empower Cities is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is dedicated to positively impacting the world by inspiring people to thrive in every area of their life. We do that by delivering hope, inspiration, education, and more importantly, connecting you to resources to help you take that next step. To do that, we need your support. You can give your support in several ways. One is by texting GIVE or DONATE to 214-225-6337. That is 214-225-6337. If you text the words give or donate to that number, you'll receive a secure text back where you can make a donation of any dollar amount, either one time or monthly. And whatever contribution you make, you are part of a team that is helping us inspire more lives. So please be a supporter. You can also be a member of our YouTube channel to support us that way. But whatever you do, do the top three. Get what you're supposed to get from the Empower series, share it with somebody else, and let us know how we're impacting your life by going to our website, www.empowerseries.com, and clicking in the top right-hand corner, a survey, and letting us know how we've impacted your life and how we can be of greater service to you. Until we meet again, be empowered and inspired to thrive. Your school is from K.
Pre-K 3. So we start with 3-year-olds.
3 years old. Okay,
yes.
Till
second graders.
Okay, and that's your target.
That's our target.
So I want to talk about three things here. I want to talk about prior to that, the resources you talked about, the first place to go is with your professional.
Yes, your
Your
pediatrician.
pediatrician. I know some parents, again, that are dealing with this, and they're either finding some direction from the pediatrician, but not what they really need. And so there are other organizations you can go to, I'm assuming. I know
There's
that,
like ABA, which is Applied Behavior Analysis. You can go to any one of their centers. They're supported by insurance. So if you have insurance, your insurance will cover for the diagnostic. There's the ABC, which is Action Behavior Center. There's another location. There's another organization called From 0 to 3
okay.
that provides services. And so you can reach out to any of those organizations to get resources when it comes to just the diagnosis of whether or not your child is neurodivergent.
And there are going to be links underneath the video.
Yes.
For all of these resources that we're talking about. Some of the resources that I've identified were, there's an organization called understood.org. It's a comprehensive resource for parents of children with learning and thinking differences, basically. Child Mind Institute, they offer a wide range of information on children mental health, as well as learning disorders, including practical parenting strategies.
Mm-hmm.
A good resource. Like this Attitude magazine. Attitude Magazine is a leading resource for families and individuals living with ADHD and learning disabilities and other lives in the balance. That's Ross Green. We talked about that a little bit. His nonprofit organization offering free resources and on the collaborative and proactive solutions. And then for educators, there's a ton of resources, but all of those are going to be underneath the video.
Yes. NACI.
NACI.
Moody Gardens, Moody Foundation.
You read that upside down. That's good. In the Inclusive Classroom. And then there's also many books by Ross Green as well. And we talked a little bit about Ross Green before and his approach. Is that incorporated with the Reggio Emilia
It is,
process?
because there's several books out there. One is called 1,000 Ways of Learning. And basically, I believe that's a great book for an educator because it just gives you tons of information on how to receive information or how a child can tell you that he's learned something. And then another one is called Gears. And it's just basically you throw random objects on a table and then you allow that child to use his or her imagination to put things together.
Oh, that's
and it's just scraps. And it's a great resource to have, even if in your own home. Just have it available and let the child just put something together. So often I hear in the education system, even when I was teaching, is, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, like direct me, right?
Direct me. What do you want me to do? And you'll be like, well, make something. Well, what should I make? Whatever you want. Well, should I make this? If you want to. Well, but what do you want me to? They're so catered and programmed to just please you, I guess I would say, or seek your direction on how they should move forward.
So either it's pleasing, but even when you look at adults and they're going to a job, you know what every employer wants is some level of creativity and innovation, but they need a job description, right? It's like, oh, that's not part of my job description. But if we have the ability and the permission to be innovators and innovative in our space, and if we teach that at a very young age, right, and we have to make sure that they don't get their hands slapped when they go when they color outside of the lines.
Color outside of the box. We want them to color outside the lines because that's where the magic happens, so to say. So at a very young age, one of the trainings that I offer for early child educators is that allow them to make mistakes. Why are we so
much easier said than done, though?
We are so stuck on it has to be a right answer. Right. But I think we fail to realize so much is learned in the mistake. Rubber was discovered by mistake. Putty was discovered by mistake. Play-Doh was discovered by mistake.
WD-40, right?
Yeah, all of these things were a mistake. And so we're like, but why are we slapping our kids' hands because they're coloring outside the lines? So often, we're telling them to color their picture and they're like, no, you got to stay inside the line when you color. Or if they want to make the dinosaur purple, and we're like, no, dinosaurs aren't purple. They're brown and green, and we stifle their imagination. Yeah. And I often tell my staff, pick your battle. Mm-hmm. If it's not infringing on someone else's space, allow that child to have his expression. The whole idea of crisscross applesauce, when everybody sits down, I need you crisscross hands in your lap, And I'm thinking, but if I want to, yeah. My teachers out there know crisscross applesauce, but you think to yourself, well, if he wants to lay down, let him lay down. And if he wants to, unfold his arms or stick his legs out, what's the harm? If the goal is for them to process and learn information and pick up on social cues, then why are we so stringent on what cues they follow and which ones they don't?
Okay, so we're touching on something. First off, I feel a tremendous need to apologize to my children, right? So
I do too. I apologized to my kids a long time ago. I was like, "Mommy's sorry."
Yeah, and that's deep. And my kid, if my daughter ever watches this, she's gonna say, "Dad, really? Like it takes this to not me pointing it out to you." So the point is, we all do the best we can.
Yes.
Right. And we talked about resources before pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
But you now have a school for pre-K to second grade.
Yes.
And more people need to have access to your school, right? Because you're doing some great work, I believe. But how much is out there for people? Like I told you, 65% of is the 65%, I believe, that are not getting the help, that need the help. What can we do about that?
Education, training, staff is the first thing. Mm-hmm. I wish I had a franchise of 1,000 Discovery Learning Academies, but I don't. It's just one of us, and we can only serve as many as the building can hold. Right. If we can train our early childhood educators in understanding, because that's where the majority of our children are being funneled through. Parents have to go to work. Their children are going to early childhood centers. I think the statistic says 80% of early childhood educators only have a high school degree.
That's a good point.
They don't have the training to understand how to identify or to relate or create curriculum or instruction for children who are in this neurodivergence. All they see is, I need you to get in line like everybody else. It's almost a herding. That's what I refer to. It's a herding process. When I move, you move. If I go right, you go right. If I go left, you go left. And when that one strays, we're like, no, come on, come back here. We all got to move together. And that's your neurodivergent child. He's not able to move together. So what do? Well, the concept is we don't do whole group. You train them to understand not everybody has to move at the same pace and at the same time.
So if you're a parent and you have a child going to a regular school, not yours, and they see that there's a gap between what their child needs and what they're getting, what do? They talk to and they don't have any control of getting certain teachers trained or getting new staff in that school. They feel like they're locked.
Yes.
What do you recommend for that parent?
First thing is you want to ask what curriculum is being used. Mm-hmm. There are curriculums out there, Frog Street, Becca. There are curriculum out there. And I'm not saying anything negative about any curriculum that's there because it is providing education and information for your child's learner. But then you want to ask, is my child getting individualized attention? Do they have specific goals set in place for them? How often are they meeting with the classroom teacher on a daily basis? Mm-hmm. Most early childhood centers, I'm going to use the word daycare.
Okay, right.
Operate as a daycare. I drop my child off. My child plays for the most part of his day. He gets fed. He gets a nap. I come back, pick him up. He goes home. If there's some learning going on, it's very minimal. They're watching a video. They're listening to, ABC song. They're listening how to count. But those are very rote, memorized program or instruction. Very bare knowledge of information. We're not capitalizing. There's an acronym called CASE, which is knowledge, comprehension, application, assessment, synthesis, evaluation.
Okay.
We rely on the very bottom, which is knowledge. I received that information. I've memorized it. I'm great. Most parents will be happy when they say, oh, my child knows his ABCs. He can sing you the song. That's great. Now, does he understand the sound of it? Can he tell me what word is associated with this letter? Does he understand the beginning and the ending sound and how it changes? No. Can he apply that sound to anything else? No. So all he knows is the knowledge of it, but there's no application, there's no synthesis, there's no evaluation. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So not to knock what early childhood or daycares do, but majority of the educators or the professionals in the field only have only have a high school degree. So now we want them to do what teachers do. And
continuing education, possibly certification.
Yes, in certain stations they get their associates.
Okay.
But we're asking them to do what a 4-year trained bachelor's teacher can do. We want them to be able to do. Well, we want the early childhood educator to do what the bachelor teacher is doing.
Is that realistic?
It's not.
It's not at all.
It's not.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the gap is.
Got you. So, but your school helps address that.
Yes.
That's number one. So outside of people going to your school and your school, are you at capacity? Do you have any open spots?
We're at capacity. Our classrooms fill up very quickly. And then because we're a tuition-based private scale program, when it comes to some of our older classrooms, of course, they are smaller in number because most parents in this area are not going to be able to afford $1,000 a month on tuition. You know, it's not seen as an investment.
So what is out there really for people who are low to income or just have some challenges? Because out there right now in Los Angeles, I appreciate this more now than I did when I was growing up. My father worked 2 jobs to put 3 of us, my older brother, my older sister, myself, through private school from K to 12. That's a lot to ask of a parent today.
Yeah.
Right? Even 2 income households.
Yes.
So what is available, if there's any resources available for people who cannot afford a private school or tuition?
Well, now with the voucher program that's being offered, that is one aspect that parents can utilize to kind of get their students in different programs. Another fund that's available is through the Workforce Commission. They supplement pay for children who are going into early childhood centers who offer those kind of programs, whether it's through the Workforce Commission or whether it's through Child Care Group. They offer scholarships to parents. So it's income-based. So if you qualify based on the income parameters, then you're able to get subsidized or at least some kind of scholarship funding towards. You're still required to pay something, but they'll cover a portion of the cost.
Okay. And then after 2nd grade, they're out of your program.
Yes.
And then they're just in the educational system.
Yes.
And either a parent can afford private school to get that specialized attention still, or they're in the public school system.
They're in the public school system.
And what do you do? How do you say goodbye and good luck to your 2nd graders graduating?
Well,
I'm sure you just don't say that.
No,
way.
we don't say goodbye and good luck. But my focus has always been, I want to make sure that he or she is prepared and ready to go. Okay. So I've had children who come in emotionally dysregulated. They're very smart. They're able to handle the information, but they just can't regulate their emotions. They're just very quick to anger. So we put a plan in place to kind of help them address some of those nuances. So by the time they do graduate, they're able or better equipped to be in a public setting to where if their frustration gets too high, if their anger, their temper, or if their emotion is dysregulated, they can self-regulate. Because by the time they're 8 years old, there's a little bit more understanding on how do I self-regulate? How do I understand what I'm going through in the moment to get me or to allow me to continue in this space?
Okay. And then what happens for, there's a couple of questions I have for children who are graduating from your program. You've been doing this since 2009.
Yes.
What type of contact do you have to your graduates and your alumni, right, from your school?
They come back and visit.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. When I think about it, oh my gosh, my class of 2010, that was 14 years ago. So they'll be graduating. I want to say my first class of 2010, they'll be graduating this year.
Now, do you have a system where you actually do stay in touch and follow them so that they can be your success stories?
We do.
Okay.
Now, in the very beginning, I won't say I was very great with paperwork, but in the last 6-7 years, we've been able to keep track of all of our students.
Yeah, that's inspiring.
So we can reach out, talk to a couple of them. They come back and visit. They always like, if I run into them somewhere, they're like, "Oh, Miss Brown, I remember this." And I'm like, "Yeah, I remember." "Oh, do you remember me?" I'm like, "Yes, I remember you." And the parents are like, "Yeah, they're doing really good. So-and-so is on the math club and so-and-so is doing this in science and she's still reading above grade level. They skipped her and, so we get those testimonies back. So it always makes my heart happy to know and just proud knowing that, okay, we did make an impact. There is a success story here.
Yeah. And then the other question is along the lines of adults. So there are adults dealing with this too, right? Neurodivergent learning adults.
Yeah.
I have some friends now whose kids are, in their 20s or 30s, and they're doing well. But the whole purpose, again, is to really give them an early start, a foundation that allows them to reach their full potential.
Yes.
Right. And we say that full potential. We're all human beings striving to reach our full potential. One of the ways of describing this was, imagine like computers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have operating systems.
Yes.
Right. And so we have a brain, which is our computer, and there's different operating systems.
Yeah.
And so the majority of people have an operating system that works a certain way.
Yes.
It's commonality.
That's just typical. Yeah.
Typical. So a divergent system is considered different.
Yes.
But it just processes information differently. So there's nothing wrong with that system.
No,
like
it's
you
your
said,
executive. It's called your executive functioning.
Right. Okay. Executive, your CEO, right? Your executive functioning is just different.
It's just different.
And so one of the things that I want to accomplish in this podcast is to get rid of the stigma of people who are different. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's easy. Like we can look at people who, their height, their color, their size, we always looking at differences. And when the way people process information, even people who are in the same realm of normalcy process things
information differently.
Right.
Yes.
And so to bring a greater awareness of people who are beyond that realm of difference, they're still brilliant. They're still beautiful. And it just takes a little bit more time to understand and then communicate with them in an effective way. And I want to raise the awareness of the consciousness of that through this podcast. Yes. And I just admire you because you're doing the work. You're on the front line, right, for the pre-K through second grade.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We say our kids, there's nothing wrong. You're just unique. You have your strengths. It may not, I dislike when my kids say something was easy or hard. Oh. I'm like, nothing is easy and nothing is hard. That's what I tell my students. I say, it's just a matter of how much energy you put towards it.
Okay. I'm going to use that.
That's
not
it.
Easy or hard.
It's not easy or hard. It's just how much energy you decide to put on it. And that's it. So when my students say, "Oh, this was so easy," I was like, no. It's just because you applied a little bit more energy to work through it. But this is so hard. I said, no, it's not hard. It's just new.
It just requires more energy.
It just needs a little bit more energy. And so now when they start doing those things, and my past students, they already know, that was easy. Nope, it wasn't easy. It just means that you just put a little bit more energy to it. And so now they know that. So no one ever says something is hard or something is easy. You just have to keep trying. And then once you keep trying and you get it, then you got it.
Well, I love that. Well, see, in every one of our programs, we want to do this. We want to give people hope.
Yes.
Because I believe that we all have a vision of what we want to accomplish. And we just hope that we're going to be able to achieve it, right? So,
yes.
So I want people to believe that whatever they envision, they can achieve.
Yes.
Secondly, I want to make sure that we're inspiring them to act, to put some energy into the things that they desire. Right?
Yes.
Because nothing's going to happen if they just sit back and not do anything.
No.
Education, you've definitely educated us here. But more importantly, I believe that after this, there are resources around us, either people or organizations that can help us take the next step to achieve our goal. And if people want to get more information from you and connect with you, how do they do that?
Well, they can reach out to Growing Einsteins, which is our nonprofit organization, if they're wanting training, and it's www.growingeinsteins.org. We are a nonprofit, and we go out to early childhood centers, and we do a 8-hour two training sessions, and it's no charge to the campus. That was one of the things that we wanted to do, was not charge the centers on the training. So we offer that. And then if they're just looking for an educational program, they can always visit us at explorecreatediscovery.com.
All right, so all of that's going to be on the very bottom, but I like your Growing Einstein.
We are. Nobody knew that. Einstein, Da Vinci, Van Gogh, Alfred Hitchcock, Thomas Edison, they were all autistic.
They were all neurodivergent?
All neurodivergent.
See what I'm saying? You did good.
Yeah, and we thought, we just wanted to.
And they're brilliant people.
And they are brilliant people.
Yeah. So I like the fact that your nonprofit actually goes into daycare centers and they teach the staff, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
You teach the staff to really empower them and help them. That would be a no-brainer for every daycare center.
Yes.
To take advantage of that.
Yes.
Right?
Because now there's no longer frustration. Because one of the biggest challenges is when you're dealing with a child that has neurodivergency, especially when they have those external symptoms like ticking or stemming, or they need to do repetitive movements to self-regulate. And a lot of our staff or professionals, they don't understand that. They just see it as a disruption. It's a disruptive behavior. Classroom management. Don't look at it that way. It's, he's doing something that he needs to do to self-regulate. I can accept that. I had one child, he was a drummer. And every time he would just drum. I mean, I learned every Coldplay song. That was his favorite. And he would just be, and I'd be like, what are you doing today?
How old was he?
He was 5.
5.
Kindergartner. Okay. And he was just out there, and he would tell me, I'm playing some song, but it was always Coldplay. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, you know what? I know you like beating the table, because then he would switch the pencil. I said, this is what we're going to do. Anytime that you feel the need to beat, I said, it's softer on the rug than it is on the table. So here is your pad. You do it on the rug when you feel the need versus the table.
So I wonder where he is now. Is he a drummer for some
I don't know. But that was our.
That's how you dealt with it.
That's how I dealt with it.
Instead of him getting in trouble.
Yeah, or me saying, "Don't do that.
Yeah,
stop doing that. Yeah. I don't want you doing that. You're being a disruption. Why can't you listen?" No. Hey, this is what we're gonna do. Here's the floor. It's softer. It's not gonna make as much noise. The table's a little bit louder. You're just, your friends may not like it, but this is what you can do. The second time, he took his little, and then he was just going away.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
It didn't bother me. It didn't bother him. It didn't bother anybody else.
So we just need to clone you and clone your school. Right? So
just clone the school. Yeah.
So let's talk about what are your growth plans? Yeah, what are your growth plans? What are some of the things that you see yourself doing 5-10 years from now, from your school perspective, to have a greater reach? If you have plans to have a greater reach.
I feel with Growing Einsteins, we can put more information out there, more training out there. Yeah. I would like for more of our early childhood centers to have that education and not feel limited because of resources. Funding is always going to be an issue when it comes to our early childhood centers. But if we can provide the training, allow more of our educators to understand how to deal with those neurodivergent students, then by the time they do enter into public education, they'll be better equipped. I feel those children will have the self-confidence that they need. They'll be able to really believe that they are unique, that they are creative. And so when they enter the school system, it's not a challenge for them. They'll be able to handle those social cues. They'll be able to make friends, and it won't be seen as a stigma anymore.
So I love the fact that you see a gap between what we're asking of daycare employees who have a high school diploma to behave and administer a curriculum that a four-year college student is asked to do. Yeah. So your nonprofit is actually closing that gap and filling that knowledge skill based, and that way it's affecting the children and the families and giving them the resources they need to help their children become better. Reach their full potential.
Yes.
So I love that.
Yeah. And then gradually, hopefully, we'll grow into a larger facility, and there are more education programs and more school systems that are equipped and will provide more inclusive classrooms, and it won't fall under the umbrella of special education.
I love
It'll
that.
just be regular education.
So what I want is for any parent who's watching who now know about growing Einstein,
Yes.
and their kids are going to a daycare center,
Mm-hmm.
to contact the daycare center and inform them of your nonprofit so that it will grow.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
my desire. That's my wish.
Yes.
Come on, Empower
Yes.
Cities community.
Yes.
Make it happen. Make
Make it happen.
right?
Make it happen.
So there's so much we can talk about. You've got the floor now, right? You've got a platform to communicate to the global audience a message. What message would you like to communicate to them now?
Don't get frustrated. Know that every child is unique and different, and whatever their challenges are, those are actually strengths. Celebrate the strength.
Yeah. And I would say everyone's a genius.
Yeah,
And divergent is beautiful,
it is beautiful.
right? And so genius is common.
I like that.
Genius is common, and it's just our ability to see that.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for your brilliance.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak on that brilliance.
I love it. So hey, Empower Series family, I want to thank you for staying with us and sticking in there. Hopefully this podcast has been very, very empowering to you. If you want to stay connected with us, again, there will be links underneath the video for you to get in touch with your school again.
Yes, Discovery Learning Academy.
Discovery Learning Academy.
In Duncanville, Texas. 469-917-7500. I know I kind of threw that out there.
There you go. Look, I have that in mind. I just want to get it right. So the links are going to be underneath the video. Don't keep this a secret. Share this video with other people. I also want to let you know that if you want to stay in touch with the Empower Series, you can go to our website, www.empowerseries.com. Email us at thrive@empowerseries.com. We'll get you connected to the resources you need to take that next step. When you go to our website, there's a survey you can take that will give us some feedback to make sure that we're putting programs out there that's going to be impactful, empowering to you. You want to find out about our next event on the third Saturday of every month, somewhere in Dallas, but it's live streamed. You can go there as well. If you want to give to the Empower Series, because we cannot do this without your support, you want to give to us, you can click on donate, or you can text give or donate to 214-225-6337. That's 214-225-6337. Until we meet again, I want you to be empowered and inspired to thrive. I always say, no one's going to find out about the Empower Series until you tell them. So this video should go viral. Okay.
Hey,
Nothing short of 1 million views.
there you go. We're taking it, claiming it.
Because I'm telling you, your purpose is really not for you.
No.
It's for the
kids
millions.
and
It's
the
for the millions
families.
of children and families out there that are needing
Yes.
greater awareness, greater support, and it's going to impact and change the world.
Yeah.
So thank you. Until
Thank
we see
you.
each other again.